Doing a little more than your job makes you visible, and that's how you can showcase your potential. Operations to HR was probably the most unexpected one. Whoever I spoke with was thinking I've lost my mind. I really was feeling the weight of the decision. It is okay to be confused and talk to someone, because confusion means that you're thinking, and that helps too. Growth is not always vertical. The breadth of experience can catapult your career. In today's world, the divide is diminishing.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Navigating the Next. Today, I'm joined by someone whose leadership journey exemplifies strength and a deep systems thinking. Jyoti Sivaramakrishnan. With over 2 decades across Thomson Reuters, Refinitiv, and most recently as the former head of country HR at LSEG India, Jyothi has shaped the backbone of people operations for some of the most respected names in the financial services. So let's start this podcast with a brief introduction of your career. You began your career in operations and made a transition into HR. And this is not something that's usual or easy. So what led to that change and how did you navigate it?
I would probably divide my career into 3 parts. Started at the frontline, then I came to operations, which is where I spent a large part. And then I went into HR. But operations to HR was probably the most unexpected one, and also the most difficult one, I would say. This was sometime in 2011, and I was leading a large global team, and I was feeling restless at that time, needing that change, something new. And an opportunity opened up in another area of operations. I decided to call my HR head of that time to talk about this opportunity, and that I'm interested in a move. And it so happened that at the end of that conversation, he ended up asking me, would you like to lead employee relations for the site? My first reaction was like, wow, is this happening? Then I was like, I have zero experience.
Yeah.
What is he thinking? But of course, I took time. I gave it some thinking, and whoever I spoke with was thinking I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
I really was feeling the weight of the decision, and I turned to my mentors and some leaders I felt comfortable with. And then, there was a moment of realization. Here, I have this entire experience in either frontline or operations. And someone who's the HR head of our organization is asking me, do you want to make a shift? He's placing that trust in me. If I stood out in the market, would anyone even consider me for a role without experience? I think that is what made me just take that leap and have that faith in myself. And more than anything, I should trust myself. They're trusting me so much. And I learned something then. They trusted my potential than my experience.
Yes.
And that stayed with me. It is also about giving a chance to people who show the potential. Now, there's also a story behind that as to why they saw the potential in me. And I guess that came from the fact that all through my time with the company, I was involved in some or the other site-related activities. I used to lead, the rewards and recognition committee. I've done some work being an investigating officer for cases on the site. So that again is a lesson, which is like, doing a little more than your job makes you visible. And that's how you can showcase your potential. None of which I knew at that time.
So all of these things you did by instinct?
I guess so. And it is also like, my day-to-day job was never enough. And
For
it
you?
was for me, right? I
I
always
love that.
wanted to do something extra
Yeah.
by the side, which I could call my own. So, I always had the thing that, I want to do something more. So maybe that's what helped me.
Okay. And seeing that you've had an absolutely wonderful career going right from the beginning, I think this is what shaped it. Your
Yeah.
personal hunger for satisfaction from work or your hunger for growth.
I would actually say it was more about how I can add value.
Brilliant.
And, you know, what is that extra I could do? And sometimes it meant a stretch, it was not easy. But at the end of the day, it did give a lot of satisfaction. I don't know what to call it, but maybe it was passion.
From the front lines to becoming the head HR of the country, I am sure that you had a very great career that moved fast. What I'm most curious about is, like you said, opportunities presented themselves to you, sure. But looking back, what is it that you think you did differently for all of these opportunities to show up for you?
I think by nature, I also sought out opportunities. And I'll tell you how. You get into a role, you take some time to, master it, say 2, 3 years, and then you feel you have done everything in that role and you want to do something else. So you used to get this restlessness, and it's more about, okay, what new can I do? What could be a different challenge? And that always actually motivated me to find people to talk with or to see what opportunities are there. And now that you ask me that, I also remember it is not very easy.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it was a roller coaster. There were times when I didn't know what I wanted. But two things actually helped me. One, I put up my hand even when I was unsure. So it helped me with, let me try this. Secondly, I would say that a lot of my movements when I changed teams or I got to know there is an opportunity, the max of my movements were actually lateral. As an example, I was leading the exchange data unit, which actually manages stock exchange data coming into Reuters at that time. I was a team leader there.
Okay.
I moved on to data operations as a team leader. It was a similar role.
Yeah.
But it meant me getting different skills in a different domain and business of work. So that helped me pick up the business much better. And I also think that it is important to have, coaches, mentors, sponsors around you. Sponsors is a more fresh term now, right, in the last 5 years or 6 years. But at that time, you didn't even know that they were sponsoring you. But talking to people, letting leaders know about what you want, and even, it is okay to be confused and talk to someone, because confusion means that you're thinking.
Yes.
And that helps too. So I think there are different things that have helped me at different points in time. And I've also stayed in a role for a very long time. And that would also mean that I've learned there, and, there are times when you have to also make sure that the mundane work becomes interesting. So that's how I would actually summarize it.
Great. So, what I'm hearing is be open to being confused. Don't let confusion be a barrier, but find your way through it, number one. And to step up, even though you're not 100% sure, and use moments as learning opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll probably add that growth is not always vertical. The breadth of experience can actually become, it can catapult your career.
Yes. Most people might miss this, but now that I'm hearing it from you, it makes a lot of sense. So, we're going to be talking about your experience in HR now. Your foundational years across all these departments in operations and other teams must have offered you a unique perspective, a unique lens in how you think about and operate in HR. So, how do you think has this experience shaped or impacted your approach to HR and human systems?
I think everyone brings their own experience and wisdom to a role and how they should operate. We're all finally a function of our lived experiences, isn't it?
Yes.
And it will be a little naive of me to think one is better than the other. But when you're in operations, you're dealing with client realities, delivery pressures, regulatory challenges. You have to deal with team performance, and what happens on the ground is that what you have as HR guidelines, policies can either constrain or enable the folks working in the company.
Yeah.
I think I realized that for sure it gave me an early perspective. What it also made me think is, when you're a business leader, you're in, I would say I'm in operations and I have a business partner. I have certain expectations of the business partner.
Yeah.
Now the tables are turned around, right? And you start to think, okay, now I have to think and
Yes.
help. So, that whole being in the shoes thing really became real. And I was also in a position to talk the language of the business, which resonated, and the credibility building was easier. But then I also have to say that I had to learn a lot from an HR domain point of view, and I had the privilege of working with my leaders and my peers and my teams, where I've learned immensely about whether it is organizational design, talent, strategy, how you go into employee relations when you know nothing about it. So it is really the blend of different perspectives that really helped at that time. And building that, for me, it was more about building the credibility within the HR team. And that really helped, right? Because you bring in business insights, you gain HR experience. So I thought that was very unique about my situation, but it also meant a lot of learning.
I think that is something that you had to do over and over again, that it almost became your habit. Can I assume that?
Yeah, actually. Because, the day is over, you do it all over again. And you need to build that trust and credibility within the business as a HR professional, and then make sure that you're walking with your HR colleagues. But you know what? In today's world, the divide is diminishing. And when I say the divide is diminishing, I'm talking about, someone's a HR leader, someone is a finance leader. I really think that any leader is a business leader first. HR, finance, everything else are like, your functional expertise hat is on, but it is so important to think holistically about the business first.
Yes. So you have partnered with senior leaders in massive distributed teams. What lessons stand out for you when it comes to scaling culture and policies in, let's say, hybrid or global first companies?
This is, when you talk culture, when you talk policies, it's very close to my heart. But you know what? Let us talk about culture, scaling culture or policies in any environment.
Yeah.
Because I strongly feel that when it is hybrid or global, it only gets more pronounced. It's much more amplified, and you have to put much more focus on that. But the underlying and the foundation is pretty much where it is the truth across. It's very odd, right? Culture, policy, sometimes when used in the same sentence,
Yeah.
it can be as correlated or as disparate as you want.
Yes.
And I say that because, what is policy really? Policy is like what is permissible, right?
And what is the barrier?
Yeah, and you create barriers around
Yeah.
it because you want people to operate consistently. Sometimes feels like handcuffs. Just,
Sure.
just the word,
yeah.
right? And when you talk about culture, culture is all about lived experience. Something written on paper can be absolutely different in reality. And what really is culture? Many of us will think it is, how do you name it? It's so sticky, so feely, yet you feel it. And simply put, it is just how we do everything we do in a company.
Yes.
And in my experience, um, and I strongly feel this because it's so important that the purpose of the organization and the values of the organization need to lead to the culture and vice versa. And that's when, it's very imperative, and that's when, you can really boast about having a good culture. Also, if you think about culture in a way, you don't have a choice. Either you shape it or let it shape you. So all organizations have a culture. So technically, you don't have a choice. So let's rather shape it, right? And again, a few things that really resonate with me, and I have seen it in my lived experience, is that it starts at the top. The tone is set at the top, and then it is lived throughout. Now, how you live it throughout, particularly in large organizations, really requires focused effort and strong belief. And you have to be able to create an environment in which people themselves can hold each other accountable for living the culture. And I'm very proud that in many of the organizations or the forms of the organization that I've worked with, we have made it happen. Also, I feel that when you scale culture the right way, it has the power to become a movement. And then finally, I would say language actually matters. And I'll give you an example for this. One of the CPOs, Chief People Officers, that I worked with earlier, made a very simple change. He drove a change that anything which is addressed in the organization will replace employees with colleagues, except where it is required by law. So even when you write down the policies, wherever you say employees are expected to blah, 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 your colleagues are expected to. Just think about the shift in the tone. Employees, it feels like the organization is talking to you and you don't have a say.
Yeah.
When you put colleagues, it is such a different feeling. You feel part of the organization.
Yes. I also have a feeling that it feels equal. When you say I'm your colleague,
Yeah.
I'm your equal. When I'm your employee, I'm someone beneath.
Yeah, isn't it? That
Yes.
that whole divide is suddenly gone.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to, and this is my personal take, I feel, I've never used the word policy where, unless required by law. Even when I have worked with my leaders, I always talk about guidelines.
Okay.
Or this is why we do it. So I strongly feel that, if you want to really get the culture right, or rather you want to, get the policies in action the way you want it, get the culture right. And, even a small change like colleagues can have such a huge impact.
Brilliant. I mean, you consciously or unconsciously are always, I'm talking about the leadership here, they're consciously or not consciously always shaping the culture.
Yes.
So I love that you put such an emphasis on it. Thank you.
We'd rather do it intentionally, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then, we always like, things that are within our control. And this is definitely one of those things that leaders can have within their control, just needs to be done right.
So HR is often described as the backbone of an organization. Very much essential, but not always visible. So, as someone who's personally involved in the scenes, what do you have to say about it?
You know what? This reminds me of the Wi-Fi analogy. Um, just imagine, when Wi-Fi is working, everything's like clockwork, and you don't even care about it, right?
Yeah.
But the moment it goes down, and I guess, in many companies, when you walk in, you would know, the culture, whether it's working or not. Very, very similar. And I talk culture because that's one of, HR is one of the critical facilitators of culture. But let's probably put culture, and the employee experience aside. What does every business leader need today? At any level, what they need is a partner who they can trust, counsel with, at the same time be challenged by, and who can help connect the dots, right? It's like a thought partner. And it takes time to establish that credibility. But when HR is that thought partner for the leader, the credibility is then there. And when there is credibility, you don't have to think about, oh, HR needs a seat at the table, right? You are automatically part of the problem or the solution. So I really think that it is all a matter of how, as HR leaders, we can show tangible, whether it is performance, whether it is leadership, how all of that actually converts into tangible business outcomes. And then it is, it's really done.
So, can you share a few examples of how this, from your own personal journey, or from someone you have seen, where this has really worked?
I would say that I call this corridor conversation.
Okay.
You just do not know what one corridor conversation can actually lead to, and how that could spark an idea or a thought, or how something can be done differently. And it is okay if the HR leader there is invisible, because you have coached the leader to do the right thing.
Brilliant. So, I love that you have a greater focus on outcomes, even sometimes being okay with the fact that it's invisible. Are you?
I think, the true fulfillment also comes from the fact when you see all your efforts really materializing into the outcomes.
Yeah.
Say a really talented workforce or strong leadership pipelines. And I've also realized over a period of time that the real power is about enabling, not necessarily the spotlight. Shine the spotlight on the leader, and when you are thinking about HR, it's really the power of influence.
Wow, I'm going to take a moment to let that sink in. True. So very true.
So when I moved from operations to HR, I think that was a big shift for me in many ways. One, you're used to delegating. You have a large team. I mean, at that time, I think I had a team of 800 people spread across 10 locations, and you have strong leaders, working alongside you. And then you move into the employee relations role that I was talking about. It had a small team, right? And suddenly you're all hands on deck. So that's one. The second thing, and at that point in time, the HRBP model in itself, I think in India, it was just becoming much more familiar in the financial institutions and banking space. So what is expected of HR partner when you are an HR partner for a leader? That was going through a change. You had certain expectations of the role, and then you suddenly feel, okay, I can do much more and so differently. So it's worked both ways. Sometimes it is difficult, right? You're suddenly a leader of a big group. You're running these town halls and all of that. But I guess it is important at some point that you feel that fulfillment from behind the scenes. I'm sure, many HR leaders actually do that.
Yeah, I think so too. Now that you say it, I'm able to really see it in my head all over again.
And I also remember this, I think I've read this somewhere, right? And a good leader is someone who takes more than the blame, more of the blame, right, than they are truly responsible for, and shares the credit with the team.
Yeah.
That stayed with me too. Something I won't compromise on.
Yeah. That's such an important quality for a leader to have, so that whoever is working with you, the team, can place that trust that no matter what, I'm not the one that's going under the bus.
Yeah. It actually
Because I have someone to protect me.
Air cover. It also helps people take risks. And I could do that because my manager, my leader, did that to me. So it's quite empowering.
Yeah. So, in your experience, what do you think defines a strong workplace culture, especially and particularly considering the current Gen Z who's entering the workforce with a strong need for finding meaning and a sense of belongingness and a purpose in the workplace? And what should companies do to ensure that they get and retain the top talent from the generational shift?
You said belonging, meaning, purpose, right?
Yeah.
Let's give them that. Sometimes I think, right, if you go back to Industrial Revolution too, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love that. If you think across all the generations, what has really changed? Has it changed? The basic needs, the psychological needs are pretty much same, right? We keep adding something
Yeah.
every decade. And if, say, baby boomers were like 1G, maybe Gen Z is 5G. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So if you really, I found it amusing because I was playing with this. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The physiological needs, a fair paycheck, basic benefits, and now you can add after COVID hybrid working.
Yeah.
You can say flexible working, remote working, right? All of that. Then comes security, right? Job stability, having a strong relationship with their managers, yeah. Transparency in communication, which will help them build trust. Yeah. That's a sense of security. Then you go to, what is the next one? Belonging, right? Belonging, which would mean relationships, community, inclusiveness, the team bonding, so important. And that will then take you to the next level, right? Esteem, where you say, I'm finding the growth I want in this organization. I'm getting that promotion. I'm able to fulfill it stimulates me intellectually, right? So you get that esteem. And then you go to self-actualization, right? Where you are really, really connected with the purpose of the company. There is creativity, there is innovation. So I often think that, the needs, it's just in different, dimensions.
Yeah.
But it is pretty much, right, what this, the basic ask has remained the same. It is the need to feel respected and valued, and everything falls in place.
So, do you think that there is an extra spotlight on these things these days?
I think a lot of awareness,
Yeah.
which is good, right? And that comes from exposure. You learn more, you know more, you expect more. Also, lifestyles have changed. And, everyone has a phone. And if you think about, maybe two decades ago, it was just in every house, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about the way we are also evolving in our technology as human beings, it's like the rise of the machines, right? It is also giving rise to a heightened awareness and heightens expectations as well. And then, there's another thing at play, right? You're going into an online shopping platform or something like that, and you're able to get a technology which is so comfortable and easy. You also want the same, tech savvy workplace. So how do you offer that level of workplace? So it's all very related, I feel.
Circling back, what do you think marks a strong workplace culture? Give me just one or two things. You've spoken about a lot. So, if you have to identify some markers of a strong workplace culture for the current generation, what do you think? What
I
do you
would
say
point
to-
out psychological safety. And when I say that, I mean a place where people can be their best at their work, where they're able to take risks, speak their mind, challenge, and be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
That's when innovation happens too, right?
Yes. Thank you. That was a great answer. So, we've spoken a lot about culture and systems so far. Now, when systems and brands are merging, how do you ensure cultural continuity that, it keeps consistent? Is that how challenging is it?
Very. It's like, our conversation around culture and policies. What is the lived experience? Whereas, that can be so informal, unwritten rules.
Yeah.
This is how things work here. Everything will come into play. So very, very difficult. And truly, truly, it is easier said than done. It's a very pertinent question. Also looking at how the industry is going. So many mergers and acquisitions. And in my experience, going through some myself and also, engaging in those deals, I feel that sometimes it is best to just keep status quo, at least as far as the culture is concerned. I know when we prepare for acquisitions, there is so much of focus on, how do we integrate systems, and, of course, you have to think about the brand.
Yeah.
You have to think about the culture. Systems is probably the easiest in my experience. And anything that involves a mind cannot be fully decoded, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I also say that sometimes let it remain status quo and let things unfold purposefully so. In And the reason I say that is also because when people see, that it's fine, we are not making those changes, it brings down the anxiety levels, right? So that's
Yes.
it makes you much more open, because whether you say it or not, there will always be fierce loyalty to the parent organization. And let's respect that, because you're not just bringing the intellects in, you're bringing the hearts in. And a friend of mine, I always remember saying that, let's capture the minds and hearts of people, right? And that is true. So how do you capture the minds and hearts of people? And you can also think about it this way, right? That you have a very spicy curry,
Okay.
and there is a sweet dessert, and you're actually just
Putting them in the
putting
same
it
bowl?
together
Yeah.
just like that, right? And it is going to leave a bad taste. So that's very important that you allow people to go through the journey and they feel respected for the legacy that they bring. In my experience, it's also very, very important that when we start building the culture, we bring people from all levels into the exercise. So having a representative voice of the employee, voice of the customer, what do they think about the brand? What do they think about the culture, how we serve customers, how we bring stakeholder values, very, very important. And because you expect the colleagues, the employees, to live the values, it's most important they're part of the process. In some cases, in my experience, we've also done experiments in small teams where you have actually run the tests of the values and the culture you want to live and to see whether, how is it working? Does it resonate? Does it not? So I would say honoring the past and then getting people in to shape the future is very, very important.
Wonderfully explained. Thank you. I love the fact that you placed very high importance on respecting people as they are and giving that space, giving them that space and time to evolve and adapt to this new changes themselves.
Yeah.
Did I hear it right?
Absolutely. And sometimes, if you're going in a completely different direction as a company, you may want to have a completely new set of values. So this actually gives a canvas to do everything. The people will bring and talk about strengths that we might have not experienced as, say, a leadership team or a CXO team. So it just works in everyone's favor.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little and talk about our future workforce. What is some advice that you have for somebody who's listening to the podcast who will probably enter the workforce in, let's say, the coming year or so? Piece of advice, reality check, what should they be mentally prepared for, whatever direction you wish to take it.
The corporate world, or basically, right, the livelihood world that they are entering, students are entering, it's very different from what it was probably a decade ago. And it is very, very, very easy to get confused, overwhelmed. But I think there are a few things that students who are going to step in have as an advantage. The kind of resourcefulness that they bring in, right? I mean, go finding, if you ask anyone, they just go find things without any support, and they're happy to figure things out, right? That's a very, very rare trait, and you're able to see that in, early career people who are, students and just coming into corporates. From my own experience, I would say that there are a few things that are very, very important. We call it like know your customer, know your business, know your domain, very important. And with the rise of AI and ML, large language models, or whatever you call them now, it's also very important to know your tech. So I think, I would say know your business, know your customer. Having an understanding of the business just gives you a holistic perspective. So that's something that I would definitely say. The 3 R's I typically use, and I think that it is true in case of anyone, any person, any professional who want to make a mark for themselves. Results matter, intentions don't. The world sees what you do, not what you could do, right? So results. The second R is about relationships. And there will be times you need to turn to your network and make it work. So make your network for you. And by the way, a manager is your most important stakeholder. The third thing, I would say relevance. And when I say relevance, I'm talking about skill, reskill, upskill, all of that, right? So basically, continuous learning. When I was coming out of college, stepping into the corporate world, oh, I was like so happy. I'm done with my studies. Surprise, surprise. Lifelong learning, right? So we have to be prepared for that. So I think those are three things that I would definitely say, we need to focus as professionals, and that is true for anyone stepping into the corporate role. I'm going to also add well-being. Well-being is real. And I'm glad that we are much more aware of it now than before. When I stepped into the workplace, I'm sure I had no clue about it. And I thought it was physiological, right? Or maybe psychological. Well, who knows? But no one named it well-being. And in a period of where there is this hustle culture and constant scrolling, distraction is so easy and discipline is hard. But all of that could lead to issues that impact well-being. Everything else diminishes. What really can take you forward is that you have a healthy life. So I would say focus on your well-being.
What I love here is that you tied discipline to well-being. I mean, I don't think discipline is the first word that comes to mind when we're talking about well-being, but now I see it's so important that you're disciplined in other areas of your life. When you say well-being, the first word that comes to my mind is rest and not having to do anything.
Wow.
But I now see the importance of having discipline in all other areas of life to be able to afford to have rest.
I can actually understand what you say, because if something triggers my passion, it is I'm going to enjoy it. And that is going to bring much more rigor and discipline in the way I approach other parts of my life.
Yeah.
It could also be sleep.
Yeah.
Isn't it, right? A peaceful
Yes.
night's sleep is so
Yes.
important. So it's very, very important that we focus on our well-being.
From this day, well-being means discipline.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I think it's an important takeaway. So I think even though I asked advice for early career professionals, what you've said rightly applies to people across.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah. And what's different from for people who've entered the workforce, let's say a decade ago, and for people that are entering now or about to enter now, is one of the things is the pace at which the landscape of work is evolving.
Yeah.
So given that, how important do you think is for early career professionals to keep their mind and, more importantly, heart open for risks?
Take it as early as possible in your career. As you grow higher, the stakes are higher, right? It's true, right? You have more to gain and less to lose. Many of us will not have so many financial responsibilities at that stage of life. And that would mean that, you can indulge. It is okay to fail. It will give you that phase of self-discovery too, because you will figure out your own strengths, and you will figure out, okay, what you're good at. And so what if this doesn't work? Something else might be your calling, isn't it? So I would say that, easier in the beginning than later on the career. Not saying that, you should not take risk later on the career, but I think, use the opportunity, explore what you can do, and, hopefully it will land you right.
Like, from what I'm understanding is, when you enter your workforce, if you limit yourself, you'll stay in the same lane. You're forcing yourself to stay in the same lane. But if you keep an open mind and keep exploring, you'll find what is best for you. Is that what you said?
Open mind, yes, 100%. Finding the best for you, it is going to be by trial and error. I don't think we all get into our careers clearly knowing
Yes.
where we are going to go, isn't it? And it is okay. It is okay to explore. And I feel, when I look back at my own career, one experience led to the other. And sometimes I felt that if I had not taken that chance with my own self, maybe the other door would have not opened. So yeah, works.
Okay. So, given your vast experience in building and leading HR systems and teams, and the way the world is moving forward, if you were put in charge of creating a HR system for the future, what are the 3 top capabilities or capacities that you would build into it?
Top 3, I would say business, understanding of the business, very important for anyone in any role, forget just HR. How does the company make money? Then the second one I would say is accountability. And when I say that, I say it in a way that one feels the ownership. You're not really just the employee of the organization. Maybe call it the entrepreneurial mindset. And the third one I would say is, and very, very important, again, spoke about it earlier, the curiosity to learn. I think it is very, very important, whether early careers, whether HR, in any part of the business right now, need to know how to learn, because that is the only thing which is going to keep going.
All right. So, understanding of the objective, accountability, and continuous learning. Perfect.
And may I just add?
Sure.
Because there's some underlying foundational things that I feel, right? I feel it's also very important, integrity. That's literally the foundation to everything that anyone brings in.
So, with India becoming a global hub gradually but surely, how do you think is the role of HRs evolving in leading this change?
I think the first is about really building leaders who can navigate complexity, difficult situations, pivot, manage ambiguity very, very quickly. But the most important thing is that it's not just important to create top leaders. We have to multiply, create leaders underneath, and make sure that we are able to, supply for the demand that we have right now. And also, one of the things we have to remember is that we're not hiring leaders for India. We are hiring global leaders in India. So, leading with the global mindset, rallying around diverse teams, managing cultural complexities come into play too. One of the things I've heard a leader speak about is how it is also important to lead with empathy and compassion. And there is no shame in having a people first culture. We need to design human centric leadership in a technology driven world.
Yeah, so important to put that balance there, especially when everyone's trying to run it to match the speed of technology change. So, this is a question that I've been very curious to ask you since the moment I met you. You have this very graceful and pleasant vibe. And in the corporate world, that often values fastness and loud demeanors. What would you say to a young professional who has this quiet conviction, but he knows that he's contributing, he or she, they know that they're contributing value, but questions if it's enough? So, what would you say to them?
I strongly feel, and it's a very early lesson I learned from one of my managers, is you can get the same work done with kindness, why not? And everyone brings their own, again, lived experience, their own leadership style. And I strongly feel that if we did not celebrate these differences, of someone not being so loud or of someone being quiet, what really matters at the workplace is what is the outcome. How you go about doing it, as long as you're not killing people, it's fine, right? What is very important in such cases is one, you derive satisfaction from what you're doing, and also make sure that the results that you have achieved, the outcomes you're driving, are visible to those that matter. Everyone derives their sense of fulfillment in a different way, and I strongly believe there is a place for everyone in this world. One other life lesson, again, is that you're not always the only person who needs to worry about finding all the answers. Sometimes it also comes from the fact that we believe that we are the smartest in the room, and that is not the case. You don't need to know all the answers. That's why you have a team, because that's when the value of the team comes out, and each has its own play and place. I think I've had the good fortune of working with so many leaders with humility, that I guess it just stuck with me.
Yeah, and it's so inspiring too. So we've wrapped up almost a large part of the conversation, and I want you to brace yourself for a rapid fire now.
Okay.
What is one leadership quality that you admire?
Humility.
All right.
Everything else falls in place after that.
What is a book or a podcast that changed your perspective on how systems or culture function?
It's a book called as Human Operating System by Sen Delaney.
All right.
Huge impact.
So what is the first word that comes to your mind when you hear employee experience?
Everyone's responsibility.
Amazing. One myth about HR that you'd like to bust for good.
Hiring and firing. Is that all we do?
Okay. So your favorite part of being in HR?
Getting to work with people, making a difference.
An underrated trait in early career hiring that you massively value.
Resourcefulness. Right? They can figure out things.
What keeps you hopeful about the future of work?
I'm an eternal optimist, and I see so many leaders around me who still believe in leading with compassion, empathy, at the same time making all the tough decisions, keeping the end human in mind, right? So that's what keeps me going.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and insights on this episode today. I had a great time, and I believe everyone who's tuned into the end also does. Brilliant takeaways, and you've explained everything so beautifully. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's been my honor and pleasure. It's been equally a great experience for me. Thank you so much to you and to the entire team here. I really enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A pleasure. That was a powerful episode packed with so many insights. And I hope you're walking away with as many outcomes and takeaways as I am. We have many more interesting conversations and powerful guests lined up for you. So until then, keep learning, stay curious, and never stop believing in your potential.